Hey everyone, welcome to another video of this masterclass. In this video, we'll demystify the secret of JSX. So today's agenda is we'll talk about what is JSX, how to add expressions, child components, conditions or attributes within JSX. So first of all, what is JSX? JSX stands for JavaScript XML. It is used to add HTML in the React and create different components. It's not mandatory to use JSX, but we'll see how it makes our life easier. It also helps to prevent XSS attacks because it escapes any malicious inputs. So let's see some examples. So here I have a sample HTML which we created last time. I've imported React version 18 and Babel, and I have a snippet over here. You can see line number 22. Here I'm assigning this HTML to a variable. So what is this? Whether this is HTML or this is JavaScript. So if we do it without Babel, then this will actually throw an error because it's neither HTML nor JavaScript. This is JSX. Okay, with the help of JSX, you can assign any HTML element to a JavaScript variable. And how it works under the hood, let's see that. So I'm on babeljs.io. If we transpile this with the help of Babel, then you can see that Babel is actually creating a React element over here, right? And if say I have a complex element, something like this, then you can see that this gets pretty complex, right? It's actually nesting this React JSX runtime. So imagine that if we have a big HTML snippet, then without JSX, writing this in plain JavaScript would get very complex, right? So JSX comes to the rescue and makes our life much more simpler. So JSX is actually a React element, right? And with the help of Babel, we are actually transpiling it to what browser can understand. Suppose we have a variable value and we want to use it within JSX, then we can wrap it within the curly braces and we can use it. You see that now the variable is rendered over here. You can wrap any valid JavaScript expression within the curly braces, like 2 plus 3, this will render 5 over here. You can also make a function call in this curly braces that will also work. So suppose we have a function sum over here, b, then we can make the sum function call over here. So this will also work. Now suppose in addition to this heading, we want to render some paragraphs, right? So how we can do it? So in order to do that, we have to create one top level element. Then only we can add multiple sibling elements. Let's use say div over here. I can use any other HTML tag. I'll add a paragraph over here. So you can see that this paragraph was rendered. Now I can add multiple paragraphs. I just have to ensure that it is wrapped under one top level element. In React 16 plus React.fragment was introduced. So suppose I don't want to use a div because it will make my DOM heavier just using unnecessary HTML elements, right? So we can use something called as React.fragment. That will also do the same job. It will work. I also don't need to use React.fragment. I can simply add a empty tag over here. Okay, so this will also work. Just using an empty tag. This is React.fragment under the hood. But if I just remove them, then you can see that it's actually throwing us an error, right? Nothing is rendered. So I have to use one top level element, then only we can add multiple child elements under it. If I have to assign attributes to JSX elements, then we can add it directly as a string. So I can add a string over here, something like this. Or I can also make this dynamic by placing it within the curly braces. So I can add any expression over here. So suppose something like this value colon, I can make it dynamic app1 or app2. So I can also assign all these attributes dynamically by just wrapping it within the curly braces. So suppose I have to assign href over here, I can do the same. I can use a variable directly over here, or I can simply assign it a string. One thing to ensure that whatever HTML attributes we use, if they are having two words like tab index, then I have to convert them into a camel case in order to use it. So tab index, this is the way that it works in HTML. But if I want to use with JSX, then I have to convert it to camel case, something like this. Another thing to notice that we can't use directly class over here. If I have to use a class for styling, then I have to convert into a class name. So this is the only exception that we can't use directly classes. We have to convert them into class name. For conditional rendering, we can either use a ternary operator or we can use a logical AND. So suppose we have to show a loader if loading is true, otherwise we have to render an element, right? So in this case, we can use a ternary operator loading, otherwise we'll render this is para, right? So currently the loading is false. If we set it to true, then you can see that loading is rendered, right? So this way we can do conditional rendering. Suppose we want to render an element only if this variable is true. In that case, we just have one condition to render the element, right? Make use of logical and then we can say that lang is true. So this is just a sample snippet. So based upon truth of this condition, this element is rendered. So these are two ways in which you can do conditional rendering, either by using a ternary operator or making use of logical AND. So that was all about JSX. In the next video, we'll talk about components in React. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button.